Don't you just love when someone reveals something to you that you never saw before and it can really, really impact your life greatly? I know I do. Well, let me give you guys something that was revealed to me, and I really believe it's going to impact your lives greatly as well. This is Tracy from Esther 414 Ministries, and we are out on the lake. We're having a great time out here. It's so quiet. I mean, like nobody's out here. So it's the perfect time to do a devotion. So we said, let's seize the moment and do that. There is a story in the Bible, and it's one that a lot of people have heard. And I mean, even Sunday school teachers for young children have told the story over and over again. It's about the walls of Jericho and Joshua and how the Israelites just walked around it 7 times. And then they shouted it on the 7th time that they were walking around on the 7th day. And then the walls fell down and the Lord gave them a tremendous victory. And we all love that story, don't we? We like, yes, thank you, Jesus. I want that in my life. I want the walls to fall down of opposition in my life. I want to move forward. But then there's the other story about Ai, which is right after Jericho. And a lot of people, either they don't know this story or they just kind of pass by that story because they don't really like that one as much. What happened with Ai? Well, let me hit this kind of quick for those of you who don't know about Ai. Ai is a small city in comparison to Jericho. Jericho was kind of like the metropolis, okay? And this is like one of those, it's not even a suburb. It's considered rural, okay? I mean, it's really, really small. And so Joshua and the leaders, they say, okay, this is our next target. Let's go up there. Let's take this. God told us, Jesus told us that we had the victory. He's going to be with us. So what'd they do? Well, here's the problem. God told them they had the victory for Jericho. He didn't mention any other cities at that point. He did say, I will be with you. However, what they needed to do, they didn't do. The most important thing that they needed to do after the victory at Jericho was go to God again and consult Him and said, Lord, what would you have us to do now? What city, what town, what place would you have us to conquer next? And let me tell you what. In Ai, they did not do this. They did not ask God if they should go conquer this small little town of Ai. So they thought, hey, this is a small town, we can go. Okay, we don't even need a quarter of the men. Let's just send them out there and we'll conquer that one and we'll get prepared for the next battle. We'll start mapping them out of how we should get them done, right? Well, I'll tell you, they did not have a great victory. In fact, they were slaughtered up there. They had such a defeat, it wasn't even funny. They lost a lot of people. Losing meaning they died. They had a lot of warriors that died in that battle. And why was that? It's because what I mentioned earlier, they did not consult God. See, if they had gone to God first, God would have told them this one thing. So we're in Joshua chapter 7. And what do the people do when they get back to camp? They are so upset. They start blaming God. God, why did you do this? Why did you bring us over here to let us die? I mean, we could have died out in the wilderness. Why bring us here and get slaughtered by the enemies? I don't understand. See, the first thing we want to do when we're in the wrong is blame somebody else, even if it's God. And here's what God's reply was to them. He says, you cannot stand against your enemies until you remove it. That's Joshua 7:13, and that's part of the verse. What is he talking about in that point? He's talking about a sin that happened. God had told them previously in Jericho, before they were to conquer that city, he said, everything in it is mine, all the treasures, all the loot, basically. So they were to kill everyone, and everything that was in that camp was to belong to God. See, normally when they went out to battle, they could take the loot. They could, whatever they managed to get, they could keep. But God is saying, not this time. The victory is going to go to me. It's because of my glory, and I'm not going to share my glory with anybody. It's all going to go to the temple. It's going to God. Well, what happened there? Do you know about shortcuts? Let me tell you real quick. Just let me pause here for a second, all right? I am like the queen of shortcuts. If there's a shortcut to do anything, I want to figure it out and do it. But do you know sometimes shortcuts don't work? Sometimes you actually have to go the long way. You have to do it the right way, okay? Because there's going to be repercussions if you try and shortchange or shortcut or whatever. So back to the story. Now here's where the sin came in with Ai, why they got defeated. It was back in Jericho. There was a guy named Achan, and he was one of the soldiers who went in to fight. Well, the lust of the eyes got a hold of him, all right? He saw all the loot. He saw all these neat things there, and he thought, well, no one's going to miss anything. I'll just take a little bit, I'm going to get a good start here, and I'm going to take a shortcut. I'll get ahead of these guys with all the stuff that I'm going to get. I'll shove it in my bag here, and then I'll go back to my tent, I'll dig underneath it, and I'll bury all of it there. No one will be the wiser. That's if you don't believe in the sovereignty of God. That's if you don't believe that God is omniscient and knows all things. So, no, he could not hide this from God. God absolutely knew this happened. And so now, because the leaders did not consult God to start with, that's where their sin was. They should have asked God, do we need to do this? God would have told them, no. There is sin in the camp, and until you get it taken care of, you are not going to be victorious. I will not be behind sin. God will not endorse sin in any manner. He will not do it. You will pay the consequences for it. And as Joshua and the leaders found out, they paid the consequences for somebody else's sin. It wasn't even something that they had done, but it was somebody that was representing God. That was somebody that was in their camp that had done it, and they had sinned, and they went directly against what God had said. Let's bring this back to us, all right? It seems like everybody has their Jericho moment, this mountaintop moment where God did something so miraculous, so awesome. And I could tell you many stories about Jerichos in our lives. But then again, on the other side, there's those Ai moments when we didn't consult God, or there was sin in the camp, or there was something that we were doing that God was not going to bless. Maybe it was the right thing that we were going to go do, but it was the wrong timing because we hadn't gotten things straightened first. We hadn't taken care of some sort of sin in our life that God was addressing. Whenever we add to God's directions or we take away from those directions, it's always sin. It's because it's not full obedience. It's partial obedience. And King Saul found this out in his lifetime because he had done this several times. God would tell him to do something. I need you to kill all of these people, all of the animals. And King Saul would go about it his own way. Well, I'll keep the best of the stuff, and then I'll sacrifice that. Or I'll keep the king. I'll spare his life. But that's not what God told him. And it cost King Saul his kingdom. God ripped it from him because of disobedience. One act? No, there was several times that King Saul had done this. But see, that can come back to our own lives as well. If we continue to disobey in an area that God is addressing in our lives, and it's a big deal to him, I mean, sin is really a big deal, all right? Because it cost him his son's life. He's trying to refine you into the image of his son. He doesn't want you to be like the opposition of his son. So he takes sin very seriously. So if he's addressing something in your life and it's coming to a point where it's going over and over and over again, you got to be careful because you could be walking on thin ice. So in a nutshell, if you want to have the favor of God, if you want to have the blessings of God, you have to obey his directions. You do what he says. I hope this helped you out. This has been Tracy from Esther 414 Ministries.